Hey there, welcome back to the Online Bible Reading Club. It's Justin speaking again, Fully Live Athlete Pastor channel, and we are on day 81 of the Online Bible Reading Club. It's our series where we're reading through the whole Bible, and we're reading portions of a reading plan, which is linked in the description on Christianity.com. And we're going to go, we read a passage from the Old Testament and New each day, and I do a recap or preview depending on where you're in the process. You can listen to these as a get you oriented, or recap after you've already read it and come up with some things you might not have thought about. But all right, on this one, I really want to focus on something you might have just skimmed over because you aren't that aware of the Bible and the bigger story. And we see that these chapters are not just moral examples to be imitated; they are a story of Christ and how He is the seed or the offspring of the woman, Genesis 3:15, who will destroy the serpent at great cost to himself, bearing the curse of sin in order to bring about redemption and a holy people for a holy God. All right, so I think of, as I'm reading these verses, we're talking about Joshua 10 and 11, and we're talking about Luke 1, 39 through 56. This will be our third day in a row on Luke 1, and we'll have one more day in Luke 1, but we're just doing small portions of Luke. But we'll start with Joshua. There's two chapters here, 10 and 11. Now, in 10, you see the miraculous day the sun stops. Joshua needs more time. They're kicking butt and taking names. He needs more time. And so God stops the sun, and God gives over the enemies. That's at Jerusalem. You know, this land has been cultivated. Cities have been built up, and I think of a verse in Galatians 1, actually Galatians 4:4. It says, "At the fullness of time, God sent forth His Son." And that He has a purpose for all the things. Everything that happens has its intended result. And what God's doing, why didn't He bring the people into the land earlier? Well, He's waiting for the Amorites' corruption to become complete, as He told Abraham way back in the day in Genesis. They have to have their rebellion become complete, and all these cities have to be built up just right, because they're going to go in and take possession of cities which they did not even build. They're already pre-built for them, and they're going to devote some to destruction, and they're going to take over and possess some of the cities, and they're going to disperse them out. The land's already dispersed before they even own it. Like that's part of what the first 5 books articulate, is the inheritance of these these tribes of Israel that they're going to take possession of. So, but what I want to talk about and just highlight is that as you go through both the southern conquest and the northern conquest, is that God is going to just wipe out these people. He goes and fights before them. There's some of the armies and the obstacles keep getting bigger. There's coalitions. The first obstacle is that these guys take over the people, the Gibeonites, who had just allied themselves with Israel, and that calls Joshua and the people to their aid. And they seal these kings, 5 kings, away in a cave. They seal the entrance to the cave because they're hiding in there, and they have to be brought out and then executed. Right? It's very interesting to think about the parallels of both the sun getting dark at the death of Christ and how He was locked away in a cave. Here the sun is brought about in a cataclysmic thing. You've got hailstones raining down. God's bringing it on this more like kind of eschatological judgment upon the nations who are allied against God. And we're going to see that at the end times. You see that imagery picked up in Revelation. You see it at the cross of this upheaval in the skies and the creation. And here we see the sun not functioning as in its normal manner. And that's something that you see over and over again. The sun is the most reliable thing in our world. Every morning, we see it rise and fall each evening. Well, as you think about that, God has a plan, and we need to know that this plan is picturing Christ, and that if he fights for his people, we will not be lost. We will not lose. Satan will be defeated ultimately. And you see that in all of this litany of listing of kings and nations that are tribes that are overcome by Israel and God fighting for them. I want to highlight the very last one, the annex, the Anakim. As you noticed, you might have noticed in the previous readings in Numbers, God sent spies. Moses sent spies into the land, and they noted these giants, these people who were taller than everybody else, and they were stronger. And you see that they actually just are destroyed in this context, in the context of this chapter here. Eventually, like this is the main reason the people, the 10 of the 12 spies, were terrified of entering into this land. We see verses 21 through 23 is the summary of their defeat. It says in verse 22, there was none of the Anakim left in the land of the people of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod did some remain. Where does Goliath come from? From Gath, right? Goliath is going to come from this remnant of these giants. And it says there that Joshua gave this land as inheritance to Israel according to their tribal allotments. And the land had rest from war. That's the last of the war passages in Joshua, right after the defeat of the big bad guys, the giants. So, fast forward to 1 Samuel 17, and think of David standing before the giant. It's really not much to stand before this giant, because it says right there, God gave this land to Israel. Their giants have been defeated in the past. God fought for the people. If necessary, the sun would stand still. If necessary, hail would come down on top of Goliath's head. David had no fear because the Lord fights for his people. He learned this from his father, who learned it from his father, who learned it from his father, who learned it living it and seeing it. God fought for his people. He will not abandon them. This is their land by the promise. And God always keeps his word. So think about that. This is their inheritance. No war will stop them. They own it because God gave it. Now, not even a giant who mocks God will stand in the way. Goliath will be defeated. And Satan will be defeated. Let's go over to the New Testament and briefly look at a prayer of Mary. It says, it's a song of praise here. We're looking at verses 39 through 56 of Luke 1. It says, my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. My soul magnifies the Lord. Think about this. He looked on the humble estate of his servant. Okay, so we're not mighty, much like David, much like Joshua and Israel, etc. It says his mercy is for those who fear him, who understand and wrestle with him. We're not rebelling against him, and mocking him, but we understand he is the creator and the Lord of all. Listen to this. It says he has shown strength with his arm. That's exactly what David knew. It's exactly what Joshua knew. And it says he has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the mighty from their thrones and exalted those of humble estate. He had these mighty nations build up cities for God's people just to throw them down. He had Pharaoh, as Exodus teaches, raised up to show forth how he was the master. God is the master over even the biggest king in the world, and to show forth to his objects of mercy, the humble, God's glory. Now, just think about that. He has helped his servant Israel, and says in 54, in remembrance of his mercy, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham and to his offspring forever. His offspring, as Galatians 3:16 tells us, is Christ. Christ is his offspring, the offspring of Abraham. And that's the one that Mary carries in her womb as she speaks those words. How remarkable is this story? How remarkable is it the one who's ultimately going to be destroying the serpent is a humble baby, not even independent of his mother at the time. He will rise up and plunder the mighty who raise their fist against God. They will be brought off their thrones by the true King of Kings, Jesus. Wow. If you want to go back and read this Mary poem or song again, in light of who Christ is, in light of the destruction of the kings of Joshua in Joshua 10 and 11, and especially the giants, it makes it so much richer to see how the whole thing fits together, doesn't it? Christ fulfills the types in Joshua 10 and 11. Right, and he is that King of Kings, Lord of Lords, in the very womb of the Virgin Mary, who is singing about this Savior. All right. With that said, I got goosebumps. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Go ahead and like it if you like it. And share the word, ask some questions. Be happy to interact with you. We'll keep doing it. It's my pleasure. As always, y'all take it easy, and we'll see you next time with the Online Bible Reading Club.